let's start. And from the very beginning, as part of our audience, they are newbie trying to understand blockchain ecosystem. So if we want to explain what is decentralized finance and what is the impact on the traditional financial system? Anyone? We can start with you, Jitu. Yeah.
If you look at the space, decentralized finance started back in 2018 as in start, and it peaked during the time of pandemic when the whole traditional financial system was standstill, and that's where we saw the decentralized finance peaking out to become a $200 billion industry. How that happened? It was one reason the whole traditional markets were standstill, and the decentralized finance is no interventions by the financial authorities. It's a peer-to-peer finance, which was created by different companies and different protocols. That's where we see the users from different regions, and different regions in the sense where there is no banking system at all. We saw the people coming on board, coming into the space, buying different cryptocurrencies and putting it on the different protocols of lending and borrowing through decentralized finance protocols. That's where we see this space going big. And what I have seen the difference in last 5 years of the space of DeFi, that today if you see in DeFi, the more reliability comes in because there is no human interface. Wherein if we go on the traditional side, still we are doing a manual process in the banks. In the DeFi and the decentralized finance, we don't need any banking intervention. It's 24/7. You just need internet working on your phone, and across the globe, no matter where you are, you can work 24/7, and you can earn different streams of income through decentralized finance, which is yield farming. And I think we can speak later on
Yes,
that
absolutely.
detail what is yield farming and all. That's where I see this space growing, and if the space needs to grow at next level, I think there should be a combination of DeFi and centralized finance coming together, and the centralized financing integrating the DeFi space with their ecosystem if we want to see the real use cases and that mass audience coming on board.
We will talk about that further as well, yes. Anything to add? Yeah, Manuel?
Yeah, I would add that, from a technical perspective, it's really replicating traditional financial processes like asset management, trading, lending, insurance, and putting it on the internet rails using both blockchain and smart contracts. And really the decentralized part comes in where that everybody can participate. They can participate as users, and they can also participate as let's say facilitators. So you could be a liquidity provider, you yourself could be an insurance company, or you yourself could be an asset manager or a trader on DeFi. So it's the accessibility is really
huge,
important part of DeFi. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, Shikar?
Just to add a few more words to what the other gentleman said, it is built on blockchain, which is the most trusted layer, and the next use cases comes to accessibility, which Jeet really placed it very well. Anybody can access it.
Yes.
It can really reach out to the places or the regions where there is very limited internet access as well. You have a lot of exchanges which have light apps through which you can use the best.
So you don't need like a high-speed internet anymore.
You really don't need. There are a lot of exchange apps which you have, and it will be quite easy for people to access it, lend, borrow, and make earning also to a better extent.
All right. Yes, correct. But we see that's one of the hugest challenge for central bankers and regulators, as also G2U was mentioning, that the DeFi space is global, limitless, and borderless. So shall we consider decentralized finance as an opportunity or as a threat to the traditional financial system?
I see it more as an opportunity rather than threat. If you see overall changes, what has happened in last 3 years due to the pandemic, that very large institutions and large banks have came in the digital space, and they have taken it. For example, if you look at a bank in Brazil, they went ahead and onboarded cryptocurrency exchange within themselves. And within 1 month of the operations, they have seen new users, 1 million users onboarding on their banking platform who want to trade on the different decentralized products which are listed within the exchange. That's where we see that it is an opportunity even for the centralized banks and institutions wherein they integrate the decentralized space, but it all depends on how regulated they do it, because I personally feel that they need to learn more on how to regulate the decentralized space, because in last 1.5 year we have seen that due to lack of regulations, lots of DeFi protocol didn't work in a proper manner the way regulations work, and the users lots of funds because the end use of funds was not justified with
Yes.
few protocols. That's where I see that it should be a mixed combination, and the regulators should play a wider role in segregating the DeFi and CeFi section.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, I would just like to add few more points to what Jitu said. In terms of regulation, yes, but there is a very good opportunity for these decentralized finances to pick up the market. Of course, we have a lot of good number of DeFi protocols today, which are doing really good as well. And of course, through the pandemic, everybody have picked up on the decentralized finance. The simple best opportunity is anybody without any basic documentation can really go and get things done. Okay, and adding to that, the opportunity to reach out to the people is unknown people is more, because you don't know who is the funder sometimes, or you know who it is, and that's all
Yes.
based on the protocol which the blockchain which it is built on. So I would say it's definitely a threat to the centralized banks. But if
So we
banks
have the
want to
contrary
adopt,
opinion now.
if really banks want to adopt, they should also look at investing in understanding how the decentralized finance works, and so that they
So
also
you
can
think
grow.
they're not they are afraid because they think that the decentralized finance will cover and they will not have the chance to operate anymore?
I don't want to say that, the future is always unknown, we never knew when pandemic came, right? So what I would say is decentralized finance is here to stay. As of now, it has started with limited products. That is what I would understand, and the use cases which I have seen as part of 2 implementation projects which we have done at Flexin. What I would say is it is here to stay. More use cases are up to come. So really, it's a threat to bank. I mean, that is what I believe in.
All right, interesting. Yes, Manuel.
Yeah, I would say maybe it's a threat to the banks that are sleeping at the wheel, right? But the financial institutions that we work with, they see it really as an opportunity. I think what they probably should be more worried about is Web 2.0 companies, the big tech companies. And you could say that DeFi and Web3 is actually an opportunity for them to compete here on a different playing field. And I think they see it as an opportunity. The likes of the institutions that we work with include like the State Street, Wisdom Tree Asset Management, Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Funds, hedge funds, of course, all kinds of companies. And we're talking to all the major asset managers and so on. And really, they see the opportunity in, first of all, efficiencies. So, for instance, we're talking to a global bank and putting FX derivatives on chain, and that would, they think, reduce their disputes from 17% of all transactions to about 0, plus 24/7 trading, of course. Plus, the reduction of all their back office, middle office processes. So really an efficiency play. And then secondly, a distribution play as well, where they can go, asset managers who right now don't have direct client access, this technology allows them to be in people's pockets, right, on their phones.
Correct.
So that's a huge opportunity in terms of global distribution. And then there's other opportunities for structured product desks, creating new products. Crypto, of course, in itself is a new asset class, so that in itself is a big opportunity. And the financial institutions can also, with their licenses, can also serve as the on-ramps and off-ramps for both fiat as well as real-world assets.
All right, yes, that's true. I will give like one more example that the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, known more as a SWIFT, undoubtedly plays the vital role in development of and the movement of funds all across the globe. And the recent news claims that even they decided to collaborate with one of the blockchain startup with some innovative fintech solutions. So I believe that he was right, that the perfect combination of the decentralized and centralized institutions, that's what we can find the perfect balance. But how to reach it? Like, can you name maybe more examples, more use cases where we can have this mixture of decentralized and centralized institutions?
So before I start on the Swift payment system, I want to just show you a small gap where we are heading. If you see the gap, we are right now DeFi space is $50 billion market, which was at peak 200 billion. If you compare even a single largest bank in US, which is JP Morgan, which is sitting on an AUM of $3.2 trillion right now.
Okay.
If this one single bank, if you see the figures by World Economic Forum and the World Bank, as of now, directly or indirectly, 55% of the bank are catering into digital space right now. This is where we are heading. The market is too small, the gap is massive, which needs to be filled in coming maybe 5, 10, 15 or 20 years down the line. If this one bank comes in and integrated DeFi space, even a single product in DeFi, it will be a $1 trillion industry going forward, followed by n number of banks. That's where I see. Wherein the way Swift is going, there are n number of central bank reserve currencies coming in, and the only possibilities for them to do the mass transfers
Transactions,
is
yeah.
through Swift system. If you see the figures of the World Bank, I think in coming next 7 years, $27 trillion will be used in the central bank reserve currencies. That will be the size of security tokenizations, which will happen in coming 7 years. That's where I see the Swift payments and different payment systems coming in place, integrating the blockchain. Swift has already integrated a blockchain,
Exactly.
and they are already testing on the centralized cryptocurrencies, which are coming by the central bank. But I see that the wider role will be played once the regulations comes in place for the securitized tokenization. As of now, out of I think 30-35 regulators across the globe, there are hardly any regulators who gives you proper regulations on the securitized tokenization. If I see one single sector on securitized tokenization, I am working personally on with one of the regulators to give us the license for securitized tokenization for carbon credits. And if you look at that industry, how that industry has grown in last 5 years from $60 billion industry, in 2021 that was a $760 billion industry, only carbon credits sold. If you put that one on securitized tokenization with a proper regulator, that's the industry you are catering.
Yes.
That's where I see the real gameplay happening in coming 5-7 years.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think to answer your question, centralized or decentralized, I think it's a spectrum, right? And nobody is completely decentralized and nobody's completely centralized. Even DeFi protocols, they operate on a very centralized infrastructure. Most of the time they're hosted on AWS or Google Cloud or Microsoft Azure, and everybody accesses them through Google Chrome, right? Through an extension where the MetaMask wallet sits. So that's quite so it's a spectrum, and it's difficult to say where's the optimum. But I think in terms of Swift and their cooperation, for instance, with Chainlink, I think that's just a perfect example of what you mentioned earlier. What will make DeFi grow to the next level, and that's really that convergence of TradFi and DeFi. And this is just one other example of that. Right? Swift being this fantastic architecture that for signing transactions. They probably have the most private keys for such signing as any other infrastructure has. Working with a decentralized oracle like Chainlink, and they are an interoperability player. I think it's just one more example of TradFi and DeFi coming together. We saw also this week that Golden Tree Asset Management bought a stake in SushiSwap, and we will see many more such
Yes,
examples.
more
Yeah.
examples will be coming. Yes, you want like to add anything?
Yeah, so of course, I would like to add a few more points.
Yes, sure.
It is not only that there are two major players in the globe, either you are a MasterCard guy or you are a Visa guy. Both of these companies are also exploring their way to get onto the blockchain. So the next step would be they will also get involved into the other blockchain related tokenomics, which would be, of course, DeFi. That would also cost them less and benefit more to the service providers than them. So obviously we see things moving, but how soon they will move, we need to wait and watch.
Absolutely. And for our audience, let's clarify more like what is DeFi that they can understand, because we are keep on talking, giving the examples, but we can just read on the Google that it runs under the several protocol like decentralized exchanges, lend and borrowing platforms, yield farms. But what is this? What the difference? So how the user can like dive into it and understand how it works and what are these protocols.
I'll just segregate this into 3 or 4 protocols.
Absolutely, yeah.
One is the decentralized exchange, wherein it's a peer-to-peer exchange. How that works is, if I am coming out with a token, I add my token with certain liquidities and I allow the audience from across the globe to come and trade in my tokens if they feel that the token utility in the future is bound to grow. All these decentralized exchanges are made on different protocols and different blockchains. If we see Uniswap, that is made on the Ethereum blockchain,
Yes.
wherein if we saw PancakeSwap, that is made on the Binance chain, and there are different decentralized protocols and there are different audiences. How the mechanism works in the decentralized exchanges, that there are users from across the globe who buy the tokens and add the token in the liquidity pool. And whenever the tokens are traded across the globe, every protocol, every token decides a percentage, which is a transaction percentage. And that transaction percentage is shared with all the liquidity providers across who have added liquidity in that token. That's how the decentralized protocol as an exchange works. The second protocol comes is the lending and borrowing platform, wherein it's an open protocol, wherein if I am a lender, I will go on the different platforms which are available right now. On that platforms, I'll go and I'll add my crypto liquidity, whatever
Okay.
I have, and based on that, there will be a borrower who urgently needs to trade crypto. They will come and they will borrow it and they will pay me some charges. This as same as the bank works, wherein we go with a fixed deposit
Yes.
and they lend out to the users. The third platform is the yield farming platform, wherein on the yield farming, whatever cryptos are unused in my portfolio, I can go on certain protocols, I can add, and there are different protocols which offer a yield, wherein they use the cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and different tokens for their trading benefits, or they use it for lending purposes and they offer some yield based on that. If I have in my portfolio spare cryptocurrencies, I can go on the trusted yield platforms and I can lock in my cryptocurrencies and I'll generate yield. These are the 3 platforms, I think, over.
Perfect explanation, but if anything to add, please feel free.
Yes, so as I mentioned, so it's basically replicating what was already there, but now it is code on the internet, right? So it's not people, it's not like 10,000 different front office, middle office, and back office system. It's like, I think Uniswap started with like 100 lines of code. I'm sure now it's a lot more, but it is just replacing all these processes with simple lines of code, right? So he did a very good job of outlining like the biggest protocols. I would add one more to that, which is stable coins, which is like the core building block of DeFi. And protocols like MakerDAO, for instance, and others have been really key in kicking off DeFi. So these stable coins have a very important function in that you can now start earning this yield on a stable value. So you can start earning yield, let's say 8% on something that is stable, something that is linked to real money, right? Instead of having 8% on a very volatile asset. If that asset is too volatile, then it's not very useful earning 8% yield on that, because you could still be out of pocket. And really, what is important about DeFi is that concept of yield, which can come from many different processes. It can come from liquid staking, can come from liquidity provision. And then what the opportunity is here for institutions is, of course, to bring that yield into their platforms. Because right now you have your money on the bank, you earn here in the UAE exactly 0% on your checking account, right? So the bank that can figure it out with the regulator and with the technology part is easy, sort out the security, that a bank that can then, instead of 0%, provide 1%, will leapfrog the competition, right? So that's the challenge, and that's the weapons race at the moment.
Thank you so much. You covered it perfectly. Yes, there is nothing to add.
Nothing I could talk about.
Absolutely. So we talked, yes, you explained perfectly about the decentralized exchange, and it might be still a surprise for many people that there are centralized exchanges. So how for people to understand what's the difference and benefits of each, and can you name few of centralized and decentralized exchanges?
Centralized, I am a CEO. I am the CEO of a centralized exchange, but it's a cross asset. I personally feel that the real mass adoption which will come on the centralized system will be through the combination of the digital assets with the traditional assets. That's where we see there are 3 billion traders across the globe trading on different traditional assets, and there are hardly 350 million users on the digital side. So if I need to do a difference on the centralized and decentralized protocol, the decentralized protocol is purely on the blockchain and it's peer-to-peer, wherein the end users are transaction between each other, and the custody lies with us on the platform, with us on our mobile wallets, which are different wallets. Wherein on the traditional side, on the centralized side, the centralized exchanges have different custodians, the security based on with whom they have partnered with. For example, we as an exchange, we have partnered with one of the largest custodian in the world, which has given us the insured wallets. They have one of the robust tech in terms of MPC wallet, which is multi-party computation wallets. That's where we do. Second, if we are on the centralized side, when the cryptocurrency lies with us, we are the only exchange which gives a nomination tech, wherein each and every user can nominate 5 family members. If anything happens to the user, all the assets can be transferred through blockchain to all the loved ones. And that's where we see that there is a play. But inside our exchange, we have lots of DeFi protocols which are already integrated in terms of yield farming.
Okay.
So it's a sync of DeFi and CeFi together if we want that real use case and real product to come out. That's what my take is. Over to you guys on this.
Yeah, I would say centralized and decentralized exchanges, they will live together side by side. I almost see centralized exchanges as an important L2 for blockchains, for crypto trading, because they just scale much better, right? You can do high frequency trading on a centralized exchange if it has proper architecture. And can take a lot of that trading traffic just off chain, right? So it's almost like an L2 there. And then secondly, they are the most important on ramps and off ramps, right? When it comes to identity, so identifying people's wallets, which doesn't happen on chain, as well as having those linked to that, having those fiat on and off ramps. So how can I get my dirham or my dollar into a crypto equivalent, and vice versa? How can I get it out again, right? So that's the important role that centralized exchanges play. But DeFi is, of course, much more composable, and for the real aficionados, they can we talked about farming, so they can take one token from one protocol to another protocol infinitely almost, right? And create more yield. But you need to know what you're doing, and you need to accept that custody risk as well, which is another very important difference between centralized and decentralized. On a centralized exchange, you trust the centralized exchange with your funds. Now, if it's a good centralized exchange that's regulated, like a mid chains here in the UAE, or a large one with a very large capital base like Binance, then probably that works best for 99% of people, so they can trust the exchange with their token. If you the 1% of people, or maybe 5% of people, they say no, I only trust myself, and I rather be responsible for the security of my tokens. And for those, then you have DeFi.
Yes, correct.
Perfect, gentlemen. So my only point is that things are moving towards decentralized, which I believe in. But of course, you need centralized exchanges as well, so that you can get back something in your fiat wallet rather than having only digital assets. But tomorrow, definitely, digital assets will play a major role. So you will have more concentration towards the decentralized exchanges.
Correct. And correct me if I'm wrong. For me, the main difference is that this decentralized exchange, if the new token appeared, so it doesn't need to go through the recognition process from the centralized exchange. Whether the centralized exchange has the authority, whether accept or decline the new tokens appeared.
That's actually a very good point. I forgot to mention. So capital formation is very important. That's anybody can form a new token on-chain, and that's a major task that DeFi fulfills as well. If you look at centralized exchanges, even a large one like Binance, in the last 3 months, I don't think they have had any token. They haven't listed any token from their token platform, Launchpad. Whereas, there's no restriction in doing that in DeFi. So if you want that high return, if you know what you're doing, if you trust your own research, then there's money to be made on DeFi, not on centralized exchanges.
Yeah, correct. And I guess also another difference is that this centralized exchange, if the user forget the password for the wallet, they can request and they can get it back. Whether in the decentralized exchange, if they forget, it's lost forever.
I think more than 6% of the total market size is lost just because they lost their seed phase or they lost their phones and all. So that's where we need a centralized system in place
where you can help, but it does mean that you have the power as well, like to enter the wallet of the user.
It's all about how you are integrating your exchange and which are the custodians at the back end and how strong the regulator is who is governing you. If your regulator is strong, then the wallets which belongs to the user are not in your hand. It's with the users, and you cannot touch as an exchange. Once you're going, there is a process. Once the regulator comes in, there are more than, I think, 10,000 exchanges across the globe. But how many exchanges are regulated? That's important. If they are regulated, what are the rules they are following? I have been in production of the exchange since last 3 years. It took us 2 years to develop, 1 year of operations. 7 regulators I have faced, and I have gone through each and everything. What are the norms? I have seen that. There are n number of things which you need to follow. One of the largest audit firms need to come and audit your whole exchange on quarter basis. You need to submit user reports, you need to submit. So the regulations are coming, but the users needs to understand before they go on the protocol, understand that which are the regulators they are governing and what are the user rights if they are going on the exchanges. That's what important is. And are they using the chain analysis or not? That's the main element of each and every exchange today. If I am trading on the DeFi protocol, I don't know the assets which are coming from that exchange. Are these decentralized protocol using the chain analysis or not? And the funds which I'm getting, for example, I'm buying any stable coin, are these stable coin cleared by all the agencies across the globe or not? If your centralized exchange is governed and regulated, you need to run a proper AML and chain analysis. And if any funds are coming on the exchanges, they are cleared by all the agencies. That's where I feel there should be a combination of DeFi and CeFi, and the regulator needs to follow the rules even on the DeFi space. That's what is the need of our right now.
Correct. And talking more about the regulations, like clearly it can help the DeFi space, but at the same time, it's completely opposite of the decentralization, where should be no intermediaries involved. So talking about the regulations and UAE especially, like on which stage we are now for the regulations of the DeFi space, and what should be the next step done first, like at the first place?
think if you look at the UAE in 2020, in the World Economic Forum, it was an announcement which was done by the UAE government that in coming 5 years, UAE will become the blockchain capital of the world. If you see the transformation in last 2 years, we already have one regulator in Abu Dhabi, which is the top three regulators who are governing different tokenizations and stable coins and exchanges. We have a full announcement of VARA coming in place right now. If you look at the companies which have onboarded with them, we had DMCC, a free zone which came out last year with the regulations, and within 6 months they saw an inroad of more than 500 different companies who want to set up their blockchain centers. I personally feel that each and every free zone in UAE will come out with their own regulations, but it will be governed by the central bank and different regulators in each and every emirate. And yes, coming 5 years, UAE is bound to become the blockchain capital of the world. What inroad I have seen in blockchain in last 1 year, it was unexpected. Each and every large blockchain company have their base in UAE today. Either they are running their opcos or their representative office. That's where UAE is heading right now.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, I would say it's hard for regulators, of course, to regulate code, right? That's not what they do. They regulate people and they regulate entities. So once you upload a smart contract to the blockchain, that's it. It's immutable, right? So that's not something that the regulator can just get rid of. What they can do is see, well, who was the team behind it? Who's the team providing the interface to the smart contract, which is centralized? And that's fairly easy to find out who's there. And that's when we've seen the SEC, for instance, in the US going to Uniswap and saying, hey, take these tokens off your interface. It's still there in the smart contract. So if you're a techie, you still know how to access, but for the majority of people, it's now inaccessible. So, but it's hard for regulators, and I think as a principle, the regulators should focus on the on-ramps and off-ramps, so the centralized exchanges, where the traditional financial system touches DeFi. That's where they should focus. Focus on the ports. Don't try and regulate the ocean.
And we will continue to build the trust and awareness of the Industry 4.0. See you next Friday.